Everyone. Today we're going to do kind of an unusual Wills tutorial. We're going to be looking at the live flow feed from 10/3/2025. I'm just going to kind of go through the flow feed. I did one of these maybe a couple months ago. Kind of want to do one of these maybe every couple weeks or so, just so people can kind of get a good idea of how the flow looks and just kind of look through some of the flow and what might stick out, some decent flow that might have came in on Friday. So let's just kind of get started here, and we'll start here at the bottom. And again, if you're new to this, we're going to be looking at, this is all ask side flow, so these would be buying calls and presumably buying puts. But we're going to look at the flow feed, and I'm going to kind of just go through the most of it. I'm not going to look at every single piece, but I just kind of want to go through. I'll just do my normal thing, and yeah, and just kind of some starter filters if you're new for the first time. Filtering is kind of your biggest thing, so I'm just kind of slowly scrolling through this. I do have my filters posted on X as well too, but just some basic filters to get you started here. And everything is in Central Time. I'm Central Time, so that's why. And let's just kind of get started here. So market opening, obviously there's certain columns I'm looking for here. I'm always paying attention to the time, the ticker, your contract, obviously. Side, it matters, but with this filter just being strictly ask side only, obviously you can see that right here. You probably don't need this column in here, but it's nice to just have. It's just something for me more. Your days to expiration, your stock price, your bid-ask spread is a very big piece of this. Spot price, size, premium, volume, open interest. These are your main focus points. And obviously I keep the tags on and just kind of codes and all that. And again, you can customize this however you want. You just come up in your columns and can drag them around, order them how you want. So it's a really nice feature there. But that's just kind of a little, probably another video. But yeah, so let's just kind of look through the flow here and what sticks out. So right away, obviously you have some MU stuff. I'm looking at this column here. I don't trade multi-legs. I know there's traders out there that do like multi-leg trades, spreads, all that. If you do, great, perfect. But for me, I'm not a fan of them. I do keep them on just so I can kind of get that full view of the flow though. But so like right away, MU, this is going to be out. This is going to be out. And I see these coming. So the highlighted ones are just your aggregated trades, and that's a filter you can turn on there too. So TSM, okay, I see these catch my eyes. Okay, well, you're coming a little bit more towards the ask here. You're not right at the ask, and you're not right at the bid. This is almost more of a mid here, and it's not a lot of size, so this is kind of something I'm probably going to pass over right away. You can always just click on that contract and take a double look at it though if you want. So like right away when I see this would have been your entry. You got some ask side flow and bid side flow. I make it quick. There's usually with flow, there's a lot more bad flow than good flow, so it's just kind of weeding out the negative flow. So on to the next one, we'll make it simple. Okay, so then I see these LVSs come in. Little wider spread. It's coming in at the ask. Big size, big premium against a lot of volume against very little open interest here. So just kind of clicking on the contract. Okay, well, I come and take a peek at these. So there's different spots that I'm looking at. I'm looking at the net put premium here right away. I can see a big spike in that net put premium here. A lot of put volume. And then I see the candle here, so I'm going to go look at the flow. And obviously some of the stuff is going to have already made a move, but this is just kind of the educational on what that flow feed looks like more so. So pop this out. I always pop the results out just so I can see everything. Now when I look at this, I like to see that flow coming in here, and I like to see how that IV reacts, that spot price asks, and that bid ask, spread ask, and just keeping an eye on that time there is big as well. So like this one, and this is a repeated hit, so that's just essentially a lot of contracts coming in within a very short amount of time. And you also have different other types of rules, like you have a repeated hits ascending fill, repeated hits descending fill. So just kind of some other rules, floor trades, just different other little tags that you should pay attention to. But so right away, when we see this flow coming in here, you see that spike in the IV here. And again, it's a wider spread, and this is coming in at the ask. Your spot is just the fill price of the contracts. So what I like to do is just kind of follow this up. So now, one thing I don't like about this flow, so you're still continuously coming in at the ask, and again, when you look at flow over and over again, you're gonna see different things. So like you would like to see that IV increasing on the way up, and for me, if the flow doesn't match my rules fully, that's okay. Just move on. There will be another piece of flow. You can't force it to work out in your direction, and this is a good example because this flow did make an intraday move here, obviously. That sometimes if the rule doesn't match, great, the flow can make a move, and that's great. So like this, obviously you see that IV drop here. So to me, if I'm looking at this in real time, I'm probably going to pass on it. It might be a little different too, because you have that spike in that net put premium at the time as well too. So kind of combining other data points too, but obviously you see this flow ran 69 all the way up to 132 here. So that did make a move, even though the IV was decreasing there for a bit. So, I mean, like, that's a good piece of little flow there, obviously, where showing you that IV decreasing, the flow can move in that direction. Dell calls here, obviously, just kind of looking here, 139, almost a mid-fill there. I'm going to pass on that. And these trades here, so when you see that lock here, this is one thing typically I will end up avoiding something like this, the 11, 21, 15 right calls, and I'll show you why here. So that lock, it's showing you that it's coming in pretty much as a block trade. So all that flow is coming in one big chunk. You don't have that other flow, like that LVS flow, to kind of see what's happening here. Now, if we had some other flow before this, I can see how that reacts when that size and premium comes in. With no flow in front of it, I can't do that. And you have one contract after. So it makes it kind of tough to read on something like that. And obviously you have some other flow here in the day. Let's see what else we got here. It's kind of going up here. So let's see. These CRNC 10, 17, 14 calls. Again, looking at that bid-ask spread, that spot's coming in 1 cent below the ask. And a little smaller premium here. 1,000 contracts, where you have 2,000 contracts on the day, so let's take a peek. So something like this. Obviously we had that first one, 1,000 contracts there. Here's another 1,000 at the ask. You would have to double check this open interest on Monday. You would want this to obviously increase by about 2,000-ish or so. So you'd be looking at about 3,800 or so, because you can exit at the ask. That is just the fill price. Just because you see flow coming at the ask does not mean it's a buy. So like when we take a peek at this, let's take a look here and see how it looks. So like this is good flow here, something I would be interested in. You have that IV spike here. Your spot is filling at the ask. Just following this up. So now when you see that IV drop a little bit here, what I'm doing, I want to see how much of that premium it is, how many contracts it is, and what that spot is dropping at. So this is coming in 1 cent below the ask. Not a huge deal. $1,000 out of the trade. Little drop in the IV, and then that IV spikes back up again. And just kind of continuously following this up here just to see what that IV is at. And this looks good here. So the only downside to this trade, though, is making sure this open interest carries over. Now, that first one filled at 95. This filled at 93. educated guess, it's probably an ad, and we can take a peek at it and see how it kind of looks. So you see how that IV increases. So I would assume this is an ad. Double check that open interest on Monday. But that flow looks good otherwise. Just kind of moving up here. The smaller size stuff I tend to kind of stay away from. If you're an advanced flow reader, it makes it a little easier to kind of follow something like this, but for beginners I kind of don't really recommend it, just because you have so much flow on something like this. You're not going to be able to track that 500 contract whale here. It's going to be pretty tough, and that's your entry right there. And I mean, you just see a lot of volume here. You don't know what's coming in and out, so sometimes it makes it a little difficult. So it's kind of why I like telling people to stick to the bigger volume, and we should hit a couple here and here as well. So like these riot calls or riot puts are a good example. The 11, 21, 15 puts. Oh wait, we looked at these. Never mind, ignore me. You can look at flow all day. Sometimes it all runs together. So I'm just quickly looking up here. Okay, here's some Reddit calls. 800, and right away I'm going to say it's going to be tough to track something like this. Obviously, a lot of volume on the day. Again, one here where it's about 950 there, 950-ish there. Would have to check that open interest on Monday. Just kind of following this up. I mean, just a lot of multi-leg stuff. The BLPs, so, okay. Here's a decent one here. Not a lot of open interest. Good size on the trade. Not a lot of volume on the day. Here's your trade. And this is something that's easy to follow because you have 3,200 contracts. You can follow that. Let's see. Spike in the net call premium. Let's come down here. So here is your spike in that IV. Good sign there. That spot is filling at the ask. Just want to follow this up. So this flow looks good to me. And even kind of looking at that bid side flow, there's some flow about 20 seconds or so after, and you still see that IV kind of increase here, little size there. So you got to look at that flow a little bit around it as well too, just to kind of be safe. So these look good to me. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of slower movers, but that flow looks good still to me. So let's look at another one. Longer term here on the QBTSs. I know there's some long-term traders, just not a huge amount of size, and you do have earnings to kind of worry about as well too. So here you have a no side flow. I don't even waste my time on this. This is just essentially you just click this, and you just don't get a good side on this one. And this could be a typo. It's a cross trade as well. Junk. Like I said, there's a lot of bad flow out there. You're just kind of narrowing it down to something that might look actionable. So let's keep taking a peek here. Just going to scroll up here. So some CMG calls. Again, another one not coming in right at the ask. Good size, good premium, clean opening trade. So you've got some ask and bid side flow here. And when I'm looking at the bid side flow here, these almost look like sells at the ask to me, because you're looking at that IV and you see how that IV drops here, and that spot wasn't coming in at the ask anyways, and that bid ask is dropping. These almost look like sells at the ask here, and in the money, obviously, not too deep. Something like this, if I was looking at it in real time, I'm going to probably avoid it. Let's see, the ABBVs. Again, a little smaller size. Pretty decent premium, though. I think these are ones that I actually posted here. So, again, looking at the flow here. You see how that IV spikes. That spot is coming in at the ask. A little wider bid-ask spread. This flow would read as a buy to me. You have net call premium spiking as well. Just kind of scrolling up here. And I just usually quickly kind of look here. I like seeing maybe at least like 900 contracts. I do keep my filter at 500. Just I like to see as much data as I can without overwhelming myself. That's kind of the big thing there. And let's see. So the MTCs again, probably not going to even waste my time at that, not at the ask. And usually I'm kind of looking at that spot price first to that bid ask spread just to kind of get an idea if it's even worth my time. Like the PDDs, these are a mid fill pretty much. I mean 112 and your bid ask is 110 and 114, not even wasting my time on that. It's kind of slowly going up here. So these guys right here, the UAMYs, again, longer term flow here, clean size. So we do have some previous open interest. So when I come in here, I want to see. So it looks like that all came on Thursday. So let's see. So you got 4,400 there, 7,7. So I mean, and some of that came off yesterday. So definitely not part of that previous open interest getting closed out. So we take a peek at this spike in the net call premium, and this is coming in at the top of the day almost, it looks like. Let's take a peek. So this is where it can get not messy, but it can kind of throw off the read a little bit. Obviously, UAMY was up kind of a lot on the day, so IV can kind of be more elevated as well on something like that. But you see as that flow starts to come in here, that IV decreases, pops up again, decreases again. Something like this I'm going to probably pass on just because it's that IV's all over the place. Again, if it's not uniform, I'm probably going to pass on that. But little flow there, 94% out of the money with 223 days. Could be sells at the ask too, so keep that in mind. Let's just scroll up here. So again, another one that's kind of off. See, it's the big premiums that catch my eyes and the big size. So I'm looking here, just kind of coming up here. So these plug calls right here, this is interesting to me. Now they're not right at the ask, and there's a lot of volume and open interest on this. But when it hits that feed and it's double like that, it is interesting to me. So a lot of flow here, 58. Something like this, you want to see that open interest update the next day. I mean, there's a lot of volume against open interest, and I just want to pop here and see if we can see when that started to come in more. And you just come down here and scroll the table. You can do this, and this is a thing with that higher open interest stock sometimes, or the chain, it's going to be hard. And I mean, I'm already all the way back to January. I don't see anything good, so this, yeah, probably openers would want to check that open interest. And again, a little longer term there too. But that's something that catches your eye, or should catch your eye on the flow feed when it comes in double like that. So the cores, 11,720 calls. Let's take a peek. So you got some ask, mid, and bid side fills here. Obviously clean opening trade. 12% out of the money with about a month on them. No multi-leg percent. These look good at first glance. Let's take a peek at that flow feed though. So here we are. So 81.45. So right away you can see where that IV starts to drop there. Let's just follow this all the way up. 81, 82, 81. So you see how this is just kind of bouncing around. You're not really getting a super clean look. Does stay up here towards the end, but for me it just doesn't match my rules like that. Interesting though, and you can always pull out other flow as well too and match it if you really like it. Again, longer term here, good premium, good size. Net call these came in at 10.05, so about that 10.05 is when that net call premium started spiking. Just looking at that flow feed here. Okay, that one's gonna kind of be a little goofy. So let's pop this down. So 26.21 stays up, coming in at the ask. The flow looks good. Yeah, flow would look good at first glance. Obviously, it made a move up there too, longer term. See what else we got. Then sometimes you'll have that flow that comes in like this, HIMS puts, then HIMS calls. Just got to be cautious about that. I mean, it can happen to anything. So like these BTBTs, 1017 4 calls. So you see how that hits the flow feed there, 1017, about 40 seconds apart. This would catch my eye. And you see that clean entry there. Obviously an opening trade. Spike in that net call premium. Let's look at that flow feed here. 153.23. So IV's starting to drop a little bit there. Then that IV drops again there. So yeah, like again, just because that IV's not increasing doesn't mean the contract's not going to go up. It's just the rules that I'm looking for on my end. So like these I'd probably pass on. These could run 1,000,000%, who knows. But I mean for now obviously he's kind of dropping a little bit there, 14% out of the money. Yeah, something like that. It's just screen time mostly, kind of going over this. So then you have some more plug calls again. Almost a mid-fill here, but we can take a peek at them. So you're just pulling that flow. And I'm not a fan of these slower movers, unless you're selling premium more, but... And again, this is kind of where your IV can get skewed a little bit. Because you see that IV spike here. Well, we're up 34% on the day, so everybody wants call. So you're going to see that IV elevated as well. And just kind of looking at that flow here. I mean, you're coming in at the ask. So, I mean, flow-wise, if this was alone and that stock didn't make a huge move up already on the day, I would consider it, but up 34%, IV's elevated. You don't kind of get that full clean read. So let's look at a couple more here. So just kind of looking at that flow again. I mean, you see a lot of multi-leg stuff. It's just kind of a lot of screen time throughout the day. Circle calls, so again, smaller size. You know they're expiring over next week. And you're 11% out of the money. Now, where I don't like this flow is you have that spike in that net put premium at the time. You have that call premium come in. But these could be sells at the ask. I mean, you're 11% out of the money in their weeklies. Can make it a little not the best trade to take. Just kind of looking at that flow here. And I mean, you see that IV increase here and drops a little bit and then comes back up, drops a little bit. So they could be buys. I could be completely wrong, and we could have a big rally on Monday, but you never know. All right, let's look at another one here. So some RGTI calls. Again, another one where the flow looks clean, obviously. We look at that candle. Let's just kind of see what else we got here. So that's right when that flow started coming in. And 34.06. So, I mean, the flow looks good, and it's a little earlier in the day when that came in. Obviously not a high multi-leg percentage. I don't like anything usually over 10%. 2% out of the money. You know, there's a lot of net call premium on the day. Something you could look at taking. And let's just look at a couple more here. towards the end of the day. So like these QBTS puts, these are interesting and they would catch my eye. You have a lot of size coming in here, not a lot of open interest, good premium. Let's take a peek at these. So here's your flow, about 1.5 million in total premium. Just come to look at that raw flow here. So about 2 weeks on them. So this flow looks very good because you have that IV spike right here. Again, keeping an eye on that spot fill, which is coming in at the ask. So a little drop in that IV here. So this is where it might concern me a little bit. But then you have that mid-fill come in here, so it's starting to drop. Then you have that big spike in that IV again there. Just following this up. Then a little drop there. Then it spikes up again. IV spikes up again there. Yeah, so the IV is kind of all over the place on something like this. Makes it difficult. And it could be a good idea because, I mean, knowing that, I think, how much did we finish up on the day? I mean, you're up 12% on the day. You're probably going to see a pullback maybe within 2 weeks. You never know, but that's a pretty hefty size bet, and that's kind of where, again, if that IV doesn't match, doesn't mean that flow is not going to run either. All right, let's look at one more here. Let's just see if I can find a good one. Scrolling up here. Let's do look at these Amazon puts. So again, no, I don't want to waste time on that one. That one's almost a mid here. Let's look at the DraftKings calls. These look good, so right away I see that lock, so I got to make sure it's not a block trade. So longer term, I know it's longer term. Leans to the ask, heavy volume, good premium. Big spike in net call premium there. You're 22% out of the money, kind of a little further out of the money, but again, this whale's on a longer time frame, 2.5 million. Now looking at that raw flow feed. So here's it's a floor trade on a large cap, obviously, and that's one of the other rules. So I like this flow because it's leaning more towards the ask here. Heavy size, heavy premium. You're spiking the net call premium. You can always come down here as well. Just kind of see how much of that. So it's 4% of the total volume on the day. How do our other net premiums look? So I like this. So now this is kind of combining some of the net premium stuff. Big spike in net call premium back here on the 30th. Haven't seen DraftKings really move up, and then another spike here as well. So that's where that price is kind of diverged from that as well too. So long term, and then if you chart this out, that's actually a play in Discord this week. That if the chart looks good, and the chart does look like it's ready for a bounce here, yeah, you could always go with something like that. But yeah, just kind of wanted to do a little flow reading class. Sorry if the video got a little choppy because somebody decided to keep coming down and trying to jump on my legs the entire time. So the dog wanted attention, but that's just a quick little flow reading video. If you're interested in trying unusual whales, I do have a 10% off discount. And if you're interested in Stock Hub, feel free to join and come and learn. Have a great weekend, everyone.